Hey look, there's a stick on the path. What's poppin', people? It's Dante, currently going for my morning walk here in Philadelphia along the Schuylkill River Trail. Yeah, I remember actually when I was a child, I grew up just a stone throw away, like 5 miles up the trail. Yeah, this trail connects to where I explored as a child, where I would sharpen spears with sticks, you know, build teepees and forts. I would build bridges to cross streams with stones. And yeah, I spent a lot of my youth in the Wissahickon, exploring caves and different things. Like, I actually remember when I was a little kid and I would go out with my friends, you know, just your neighbors, right? Like, it was nice having like a neighborhood with people that you could just go and knock on their door and hang out with. And we would climb trees, like these really big trees, and there were these vines that would grow from the trees and you would swing from them. And I remember when you would go off the path, right, when you would go off the dirt path that's forged and create your own. Yeah, that was always really interesting. When you would just go into the bush, when you would go into like the center of the woods where it was just chaos, and sort of find your own way. Yeah, I'm underneath, or inside rather, the mouth of a snake. See the eyes? I'm in the mouth of a snake right now. I'm getting eaten alive. Yeah, I actually, I think that embracing the spirit of play, similar to a child, yeah, that's been one of my key traits that I've carried with me throughout all of my journey as a photographer and an artist, where I'll never forget the, you know, the first time I was exploring in Palestine, when I was walking through the streets of Jericho or wherever I may have been, and I would simply beatbox my way through the streets as a way for me to engage with humanity and society without this sort of like skill of language. You know, I wasn't able to speak Arabic. I could say salam alaikum, kif alek, you know, a few different phrases or terms. However, when you lack the communication skill through language, I actually believe that humor, that comedy, that playfulness is perhaps a solution, where, you know, then I was seen as this friendly person, which I am, you know, where I'm not this hostile person entering this environment, entering this new place. And there's something about exploration, there's something about adventure, you know, this call to adventure that I've been embarking on since I was basically a child. You know, I believe that courage is required to practice anything in life, whether it's street photography or even just going out there and exploring. You know, you don't even need a camera. But for me, the camera is the excuse, right? The camera is the passport itself that sort of just takes me on the journey without really thinking about it. It's just this subconscious sort of thing that I do. You know, I just pick it up and go. And yeah, I think that the more you think, the worse you are, the worse off you will be. You know, so just don't think, just do. You know, it's like, that's kind of the motto with this thing, right? See if, oh, you know what, let's practice my target practice here. Let's hit a headshot like it's Call of Duty, search and destroy. Only one life, right? Just assume you won't respawn. And so yeah, when you're playing search and destroy, you die, then you're in spectator mode. But if you hit a regular body shot, it's 500 points. If you hit a headshot, it's 1,000 points. Yeah, I think that the competitive spirit is also good, and I think maybe why, like, boys, like when we're growing up, like we get into these like hyper competitive video games like Call of Duty or Counter-Strike, or oh, I hit the shoulder shot. And yeah, I think headshot, 1,000 points, baby. Yeah, I think that the competitive spirit is good. I think that you know, we naturally seek to conquer, to explore, and maybe video games in the modern world they've been our sort of arenas or battlegrounds. Wow, look at the way that the leaves and the plants and the weeds and things grow within the log here. This is like a whole little world in here. It's freaking beautiful. Nice and early in the morning. Yeah, I actually remember also as a child we would take acorn, like these trees, man, they would oh wow, these are starting to bloom. Nice. Or blossom. Yeah, it's beautiful. But yeah, the trees would drop lots of acorns, and we would take the acorns and like gather them, and one person would be on one side of the street, the other person would be on the other side of the street, or like two different teams. And we would hide behind the trees and try to peg each other with the acorns, just throwing them back and forth. And we decided that you had to be from that certain distance because they were so painful if you got hit. So like, yeah, you would have to stand on the opposite side, so it was like it just wouldn't hit as hard or whatever, because that was dangerous. But yeah, there's something about danger, there's something about exploration. You know, when I was a kid, I remember going down the hill for the first time after I learned to take the training wheels off my bike and hitting the hill, you know, using a ramp and a skateboard to launch myself into the bushes and, you know, throw your body down the stair set. You know, you kind of just want to throw yourself into the abyss, into the unknown. And then, yeah, it's almost like when you embrace chaos, something just carries you through it unscathed. And I think there's something about courage, heart, and the power of it. Thinking of David and Goliath, right? David hitting Goliath with a headshot, you know, with the stone. He mustered up the courage and armored himself with God. And you know, this little farmer boy against this big beast, but with courage, maybe anything is possible. And so, man, I remember when I was in Baltimore. So I grew up in Philadelphia, born and raised, and I went to university in Baltimore. And so when I photographed on the streets of Baltimore for the first time, you know, I was a bit nervous. You know, I had my Ricoh GR2, I tucked it in the pocket. I would go around interacting with people, trying to like just make myself known and give myself a presence in this new community that was rather dangerous. I remember photographing, there was this girl at a barbecue, there was a bunch of family members around, it was safe. I was, you know, asking for permission to make photographs of the scene. This little girl had this flower in her hand. There was a beautiful mural in the background. And then all, you know, like in 5 seconds, as I'm going to click the shutter, pop, 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 there's a drive-by going down. All the people at the barbecue duck, go behind the cars, duck and cover, hiding behind the grill. I'm just on the ground like, what the? And they're like, there's a shootout going on. They were shooting into the house just next door. And you know, I was just trying to photograph this beautiful scene. There was a flower, there's a mural. And they're like, get out of here, white boy. I was like, you're right, I'm out. I started fast walking. I was like this. I was like, you're right. Got the fuck out of there. Hey, good morning, man. Yo, I always see you, bro. Yo, I fucking love seeing that guy. Yo, this was my brother's favorite chip growing up, barbecue chips. These were literally the exact ones. The BBQ. I remember what they were like, BBQ barbecue chips. I don't know why one of our friends would say that. It was kind of funny. BBQ barbecue chips. Like a British accent. What was I saying? Yeah, so danger is crazy, right? I think I love danger. I thrive in the chaos. And so, yeah, and after that happened, what did I do? I just went back the next day. And tried again. And made more photographs and explored more. And you know, what was crazy about photographing in Baltimore specifically was that the streets themselves were just empty, man. They were just empty. Nobody in sight for the most part. Boarded up buildings, drug dealers. You could clearly tell like where to go, where not to go. Yeah, I think maybe the fact that that's where I advanced in my photography journey after like 2 years of just shooting the shit in Philly, practicing from high school and whatnot. That's when I started to make interesting work. And I think I started to make interesting work because of my courage, and I really do believe that, where I believe the photographer is merely responsible for positioning themselves on the front lines of life. This is where we thrive, and I guess the only caveat, if you will, is don't die. That's it. So yeah, I think assuming you won't respond is wise. Remembering the ultimate fate of the human being our inevitable death, where I look back at some of my experiences, I'm like, how the hell did I do any of these things? At the time I traveled to Jerusalem to study abroad, I decided that I wanted to photograph in the West Bank, and I met a friend at the school, Matthew, who began going on adventures with me after I started to just explore in like Jericho or like this East Jerusalem and Shafat and these different places. And we started to go out together, and we started to get a little bit brave. Like, we would wrestle in the grass to like muster up the courage to go out there. I remember, because we would experience these things that were just out of our control, where you arrive in a new place at a checkpoint and you're told to get off the bus because there's conflict going on, and there's shooting and there's looting, or rioting rather, in the streets, and people are lifting up furniture and throwing it on the ground and burning it. And I was in Kalandia at the checkpoint, greeted by tear gas. I thought, okay, let's go to the Israeli side, that'll be safe. Maybe it'll be better for us to be over there, so we're not getting shot at or whatever. And little did I know, that was not the right move. They instantly tear gassed me, and I remember crying through the streets with my eyes all watery. I had so much fear inside of me, but the adrenaline was insane. Where Matthew, being older, I remember, was so much more stoic. I was so scared. I was so anxious. But I'll never forget photographing at these situations and these scenes. And then after a few times, we got really comfortable with it, I believe. So, what happened was pretty wild. It was like the Day of Rage or something. And then, that sort of thing occurred a few other times from there. I mean, it was just inevitable through exploring this conflict zone, this holy land. It's quite a crazy experience. But yeah, actually the other day I was walking, it's just crazy. It's like, you never know. But that's the thing. It's like, I didn't expect any of that to happen. I was just a dumb 20-year-old or whatever. And it's like now, actually just the other day, my birthday passed, May 14th, 1996. The day of my birth. It's also Israel's Independence Day, apparently. But what I believe is I have this nuanced experience where I actually volunteered on a kibbutz in Israel. I volunteered at a youth hostel in Palestine. I slept on the floors of mosques. I learned about Islam and Muhammad. I prayed in the synagogues. I celebrated Passover. I've read the Old Testament. I was born and raised Catholic. So I studied the teachings of Jesus when I was a boy. I've most recently returned to Rome, actually to rediscover my faith in God. And that's the reason why I went to Rome actually last summer. It was more of a sort of personal sort of reason where, I spend every day going to the churches, I remember near the Spanish Steps, there's like this particular church in Rome, which is Baroque style, beautiful. It's like a small church. It was like the Basilica Santa Maria Miracale, like the miracle church. Or I would go bounce around to different churches. I mean, when you go in a church and you see this, like, why would you ever go to a museum? Like these galleries, these museums, it's like, for me, the Catholic churches in Rome, like that's like the apex of art and beauty when you're within one of these churches. And it's like, I feel like I've refound God, which is amazing. Because what I remember in the mosque and learning about Muhammad was astonishing at it was just like awe-inspiring at the time, where I felt the presence of God in the mosque. You know, I felt the presence of God when I was in Jericho. You know, there was something about this practice of making salah, you know, washing, doing wudu, and being together with other brothers praying in this harmonic way. And I remember that I was like, wow, you know, like you felt something actually, which is powerful. And you know, you might think, well, religion divides people, but there's this nuanced approach to life where I think we kind of just divide ourselves up. And I don't think that's a good, like, I think that, what I'm trying to say, I think we're more similar than different. You know, it's like, even when I was in Hanoi, Vietnam, I remember going into the Buddhist, you know, temples, or, you know, when I was in India and I was in Mumbai celebrating Holi in these ancient fishing villages, or even sleeping under the stars where these poles were erected by sticks and tarps. And I was partaking in this Seventh-day Adventist church camp when I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Zambia, Africa, you know, documenting baptisms and funerals and praying with this community. And I think I recognized while I was in Zambia specifically that there's this hierarchy in society that is needed for a community to thrive. And so what I recognized is that there is God, tribe, and land. You know, similar to the United States, when I grew up in the mornings when I was a boy, you know, you would say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know, God, nation, land, the connection between these three things. And within a family, within the tribe, you know, the women are coming home with sticks on her head and babies on her back. The men are building homes and churches. The boys are building bricks with sand and mud. The girls are sweeping the floors and preparing food for the day. You know, everyone has this role to play in a village, in a tribe, in a family, where the mothers are having like 10 children over there in Zambia. And it was really awe-inspiring as well, where maybe under a church, you know, this is where I believe the power of Christianity is. It promotes family, it promotes the production of more children in the world, and gives life a deeper meaning, where I consider the church as the center of town, the center of a city, the center of a community, a village, whatever. You know, this place of making a sacrifice, right? You consider the breaking of bread, you know, you're reminded of the sacrifice that Jesus had. And, you know, during the crucifixion, and maybe everybody in society needs to make a sacrifice in order to thrive as a collective. And even thinking of ancient Greek myths from the Iliad, where we have Achilles, right? Achilles being this amazing Greek warrior who was fueled by lust and rage, where King Agamemnon took his war prize, Briseis, and, you know, she was taken under the king's wing, and this fueled, you know, Achilles with this, you know, he felt dishonored, right? Where he sought glory in battle. He sought this sort of glory from the battlefield, right? This lust for battle. But then his friend, you know, he was withdrawn from the war. He didn't want to go back and fight. You know, he just wanted to chill with his wife or his war prize. I like how it's described, right? Where the woman is the prize at the end of the battle. And his friend Patroclus, these words and names are so hard to like pronounce, was killed by Hector of Troy. And this fueled Achilles with rage, and he went back to Troy and killed Hector to avenge, you know, his friend and his death. And, you know, maybe this was Achilles' fault, you know, his problem, you know, his lust and rage that was almost uncontrollable. But there's something about those feelings and intense emotions that maybe every human being has within them, and, you know, the goal is to control them and wield them for good. Morning. Morning. I like your bright yellow pants.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's my favorite color. It's like the sun. Yeah, the sun. S-U-N, sun. S-O-N, sun. Is the sun of God? I remember in kindergarten we learned about homophobes. What is it called? A homophone? I remember we had like phonics. Like we had like phonics where we learned about grammar. Homophone? Is that what it is? Homophone? There's some sort of like thing there, right? Like S-U-N, S-O-N. They are spelled different with different meanings but sound the same. And yeah, when I consider Jesus and the teachings, so that he, you know, preached love and compassion and, you know, turn the other cheek, and, you know, a lot of these different ideas, you know, kindness. I think actually for the most part they're good. And I've been reading a lot of Nietzsche, who critiques Christianity and has this more nuanced view on it, where he believes that maybe the Christians denied the human body and the material world in hope for something else or some sort of afterlife. And this was the downfall of humanity. Or just of Christianity generally, like. And it kind of makes sense, right? You look at these paintings from Caravaggio and you see Saint Jerome sort of bent over, decrepit, sort of body decaying, wrinkles, old, sort of sickly, just hunched over, and his body isn't strong. And I believe this is the byproduct of Christianity, where maybe the monks spend too much time inside hoping and dwelling on the afterlife, when the world that is in front of us is worth championing. The human experience, the human spirit is worth uplifting. And I think that the antidote to this is championing humanity, uplifting the human experience to new heights through giving life meaning, through art, through the creation of beautiful works that you can find similarly in these churches in Rome. And when I consider Jesus, I consider him as a rebel and somebody who wasn't willing to submit to authority. When you consider Jesus cleansing the temple, whipping the moneylenders, right, overturning the tables, you know, while he preached to turn the other cheek, he also wasn't afraid to use justified aggression. And I think that's a good thing to remember. Reminds me similarly to Achilles at battle. He just wanted to chill. but then they pissed him off. Yeah, myths are interesting. I think generally religion is a good thing. I just think that it can be a tool that divides, it can be something that divides humanity, when I think actually, despite the different faiths, the different religions, the different ideas, you can still live in harmony. And maybe there always will be war and conflict and these kind of things, but even after witnessing it all, I still think we're more similar than dissimilar after all. Honestly. I think the movement of climbing a tree is something that we forgot as time went on, as the Industrial Revolution was implemented, and we have all of these fancy offices and condos and trains and planes and cars and buses. Or why would you climb a tree in 2024? What is up there? You know, you're gonna get a coconut or an apple. They kind of just come right to you in a grocery store, pre-packaged, ready to eat. We have the most advanced technology of all of our history. I mean, isn't that incredible? We're living in the greatest time to be alive. Right now? We were born right now. What are the odds? Isn't that amazing? I think so. It's like when I was in Miami recently, I saw these robot cars delivering food to apartments. They were just driving the food automatically to people. Is this a problem? Is this going too far? Maybe. But I think if we wield the technology and all this kind of stuff for good, and we use it in a way that empowers the individual, maybe this is where we can thrive and use it for the betterment of humanity. I think actually my take on artificial intelligence is, you know, maybe intelligence generally is artificial, and maybe will be and is, you know, smarter than a human or more intelligent than a human, a biological being. And, you know, with that, you know, power comes this responsibility of the biological being to not use it for nefarious or evil. Maybe when I use it, and I enjoy using it, I love using ChatGPT on my phone, I simply enhance the way in which I learn about things. So like if I ever have a question, or if I'm ever curious about the etymology of a word, or if I'm reading a book and I'm stumped on this chapter or whatever, I can ask it to help me and guide me. And maybe the more that we use it for these good things, the more that we can expand our consciousness, actually. So maybe I see AI and all this kind of stuff actually generally as a good thing. Recently I was in the Wanamaker building at Macy's, and I was looking at this image on the wall, and you know, this image was fake. It was certainly made by artificial intelligence, but you could hardly tell. I think I'm keen with understanding what's real and what's fake within the realm of photography, just through experience of looking at images and things and experimenting with the AI. And you could clearly tell that it was a fake image being utilized by Saint Laurent or one of these luxury brands or things. And I mean, it kind of makes sense for some sort of like product placement, or, you know, product photography and like model photography. I believe it makes way more sense to just utilize it. It's way easier, it's faster. You can make an image that if a regular person that wasn't a photographer walked by, right, they wouldn't know the difference. So yeah, I say a lot of things we can just let the AI do it, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we can just let the AI do it, you know, and then we can go on and do biological things like reproduction and the production of new art, or invent things again, you know, go back to the drawing board. My thought about the city is kind of funny. It's like I look around the city, I see nothing but chaos. It's all random, it's crazy. You know, the other day I was passing by Chestnut Street and this woman was raising chairs over her head, throwing them around and threatening a security guard and the people passing by that she'll kill them. And she was wearing her underwear, panties, and a bra. This grown woman was literally trying to like hit people with a chair. It's just like, what's going on? And then you see these people wearing these sunglasses and AirPods, and it's like they're not even human. It's kind of funny. It's like they're kind of like an offshoot of like a biological being. You know, now they're allowing the technology to seep into the orifices. Now they're so accustomed to being inside and operating the computer technology that they quite literally shield the light. They shield the truth, the sun, from their eyes, and almost trick their bodies. They trick their mind into thinking that they're still inside, right? When you look through the world, through the glass, it's like you got fog on the glass. It's like you can't really see the truth. You're seeing this distorted reality. But maybe this is where the power of photography lies. It's in the fact that we wield light, we paint with light, and we can perhaps find truth through the movement of our physical bodies, right? We are bipedal for a reason. We have two legs, we stand upright. Through moving, exploring, and getting closer to life itself, through the medium of photography, not only do we reflect the world around us, but we also reflect our soul. And, you know, while we do, you know, depict life for what it is, in reality, the truth, I believe that we also abstract it and create our own world. It's almost like we get to be not only this active participant in the drama that's unfolding on a street corner, when you see people dancing with their feet upon the concrete, but you also are the conductor. You're also the puppet master, pulling the strings and creating these stories that, you know, otherwise go unnoticed. And there's something special about viewing the world this way, as this canvas or this stage, and, you know, observing life as this play, you know, and you're just enjoying the show. And yeah, you can put order to it all through the four corners of a frame when you press the shutter. And yeah, I think that is just a beautiful way to make art. It's this way to exist in the present moment where, you know, we have a past, we have a future, but ultimately through moving your physical body, I believe you exist outside the passage of time. And when I'm inside, right, I feel like my soul just slowly dies, you know, being under fluorescent lighting, you know, being surrounded by computers or just walls in general, where you're kind of just like boxed in. But then when I'm outside, you know, I feel like this is where humans thrive. Like this is where we're supposed to be, you know, sort of surrounded by nature and biological things. And maybe our flesh is real, right? Our flesh being the technology. And so perhaps the ultimate goal of humanity is to simply reproduce, procreate. That's like the base level function of a human, is to replicate your genes, almost like those funny memes, right? Feels good, man. Memes are information similar to the genes within our DNA. Now we invent our own religions. No Dobbler, no peace. No Dobbler, no peace. Yeah, that's our new faith here in the city of Philadelphia. Praise Dobbler. Apparently this is some sort of this is some new age religion that we found, and maybe we do these things now where I mean, I know that's a meme, right? That was a meme. That's perfect. Yeah, that's a meme. The Praise Dobbler meme. I don't even really know the backstory. Someone was trying to explain it to me. I think some football player went to prison and then he started to like make up some god and the prisoners praised the god. I don't know the full story. Someone was trying to explain it to me. I had no idea what it was. But yeah, maybe now science is our new religion, or, you know, the environment, you know, the climate. We kind of make politics, you know, in science and in the environment. You know, this is like the trifecta. That's like our newfound religion in modern society, actually. That's what, you know, that's what I think, you know. But what amuses me about like politics and media and the news and all this kind of stuff is, you know, you're being fed information through a newspaper, through a screen, through something that isn't flesh, isn't outside. You know, someone's not speaking to you, you're not seeing anything going on. You know, you're just hearing on the radio that there's a shooting going on. You're just watching on the TV someone's getting bombed. You know, you're not seeing it with your physical body, with your two eyes, with your oculus. You're not perceiving it. You're not actually there. And so does any of it really matter? Like, maybe the return to the community, like the return to the city as the supreme world, the supreme country, you know, thinking of the Roman Empire or ancient Greece, right? Thinking of these places and how life revolved around there, right? Like at one point the Roman Empire was it. Everyone else was a barbarian, right? And so maybe America is similar, right? The American Empire. We're basically, you know, an empire when you consider our naval force and our military bases strategically placed across the globe. I mean, yeah, we're quite lucky and privileged to live in the United States, and I'm really grateful to have been born here. I mean, the greatest place in the world. Like, that's pretty awesome. I mean, that's what I recognized after all of my travel. Like, there's really nowhere else that I'd like to call home. Maybe other places like in Hanoi, Vietnam, while they were actually, you know, beautiful and nice, the more that I contemplate it, I'd much rather live in the United States. I wouldn't want to live in these other places. You know, maybe the best place to live is by a beach or just by water generally. And that's why I'm always here. I'm always returning to the Schuylkill River. There's something magnetic about water. I feel as though maybe humans are designed to just be by it in a way. You know, it's like, look at those two guys rowing. Yeah, I don't know, there's something about water, there's something about it. I think yeah, maybe like the water flowing, we can make photographs in this stream of becoming, you know, where Heraclitus has the saying that, you know, you can never step through the same river twice. Yeah, maybe you can never make the same photo twice. You know, the nuance and gradual change that light provides over time when it casts upon the surfaces, and the way it etches and gives shape and form to things, makes it quite literally impossible to make the same photograph two separate times. You know, where a separate photographer could be right by my side and try to make the same photo, but you will never replicate this. You know, the photograph that you'll make will always be yours. It will always be this individual experience that you have, and I think that's special. But to treat it like this stream, right, where you're always flowing and changing, and I think to physically move your body, you know, that's the motivation. It's within your legs. And then treating your next photo as your best photo, it becomes this beautiful notion that keeps you inspired, where you do not get burnt out from this medium of photography. For you know that when you go out there each and every day, there's something new to see. No matter how often you can walk this same mundane lane every single day, there's always something new that you can uplift with the photograph, right? There's something about light itself. That is the superpower of photography. And I think there's also a power to video, you know, there's a power to showcasing things, right? Like, check this out. This is a saying that's hip with the youth now. ACAB, right? These acronyms. Why don't they just write it out? You know, why do they have to put an acronym down? Why don't they just tell us what it means? I think maybe because these people are cowards. You know, they'd rather tear society down. They'd rather destroy things. They'd rather tear everyone else down instead of uplifting everyone else up. And I think that's the ultimate sign of weakness and cowardice. And maybe we are becoming shame. Like we're fueled by shame, right? Think of Instagram, think of social media, think of the way that you share in this curated fashion, right? You're almost like afraid to be judged negatively. You're almost like fueled by shame in a way where if you're seen as like this loser, like, oh, this guy's a weirdo, you know, it's like, who fucking cares? Oh, you have no friends, or like all this kind of stuff. Like, I think we're fueled by shame in the way that we present ourselves in these digital spaces. And I think that's concerning and alarming, and a sign of weakness as well, and a lack of courage. And, you know, I actually remember recently passing through this very path here, right? This is the Kelly Drive, all this traffic coming into work and stuff. But there's something about the thing I saw last year that really struck a chord in my soul. I felt so confused, right? These beautiful sculptures that I'll be passing soon enough were all defaced with similar language and hateful things and graffiti, and they were drawing blood on the faces of these peoples and these beautiful sculptures. And then during the 4th of July last year, when I went to Independence Hall, just merely curious to see you know, what's going on, right? Independence Hall, the birthplace of America. Like, let's see what's happening. Maybe there's a celebration. No, what I saw was insane. They were burning the American flag and tearing it to the ground, and they were so proud, holding their communist manifestos in hand. But yeah, all of these different sculptures of the Puritan settling of the seaboard, where you have, you know, look right here. I have great love and regard towards you, and desire to win and gain your love and friendship by a kind, just, and peaceable life, and the people I send are of the same mind, and shall in all things behave themselves accordingly. William Penn to the Indians, right? So you see the Native American there, you see these colonial people here, and, you know, William Penn making a peace treaty to then acquire the land of Philadelphia, of Pennsylvania, this Commonwealth. You know, we have the Quakers, right? They're the Quakers. And to my understanding, the Quakers were peacemakers. And all these sculptures were defaced. You know, the birth of a nation. It's nice to see them clean. I'm just, you know, I think it's good to be proud of your history, and I think when you see these things defaced, or people become ashamed of, you know, the name, right, the United States, well, that's just an alarming thing. And that's all I really have to say about that. And yeah, maybe pride, right? You think of pride, it's this deadly sin. Don't be, you know, pride. I think it makes sense to a degree. However, I believe that you should be proud. Maybe there's a difference here. Maybe being proud of your country, being proud of your accomplishments, being proud of the things that you can do and achieve in the material world, right? Thinking of the Greeks, thinking of the Olympics games, right? You know, showcasing their athletic prowess and their abilities and their power. You know, maybe this is ultimately just a good thing. And yeah, I think actually coming to these locations where you have these beautiful sculptures outside, I mean, for me, they actually inspire me. I love looking at sculptures. I think that they are some of the most beautiful depictions of our human experience that exists in the world. You know, photographs and oh, it's so muddy. Photographs and are you fishing? Nice, man. I hope you catch something. Yeah, dude. Yeah, people fish here. It's pretty cool. I don't know, there's something about the forms and like the way that they showcase the muscles and the gestures and just the grandeur of a sculpture that when I look at them, I'm always like, I wish I could do this. You know, like this is so cool. It's amazing. I think this is a sculpture that showcases the immigrant on one side and I believe the slave on this side, right? You have the immigrant. They came seeking freedom, and the slave, their bands have broken asunder. Right, there's the slave with the shackles on the wrists. And my theory is my crazy theory maybe slavery, it hasn't really left society from throughout all of history, but there's just this newfound slavery of the mind where information is all knowing and all controlling of all people, and through the implementation of technology, security, the internet, we've almost enslaved our minds.